What if I told you that waiting just 10 years to start investing?
Even if you invest the exact same amount of money, right?
Right, the exact same amount of money. What if I told you that delay could cost you over $130,000?
It's just a staggering number to wrap your head around.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive. We are absolutely thrilled to have you with us today.
Yeah, so glad you're here.
And, whether you are prepping for a big meeting or catching up on the latest in your field, or you're just insanely curious about how the world works, this deep dive is designed specifically for you.
Exactly. We know your time is valuable, so we are just going to jump right into the deep end.
Let's do it. So we are pulling from some truly fascinating source material today.
We really are. We're looking at excerpts from the first chapter of a book that it essentially examines the specific, often hidden mistakes that women make. Mistakes that hold them back from the money, the careers, and really the independence they deserve.
The mission for today is pretty clear. We are going to totally dismantle what is known as the readiness myth in investing.
The readiness myth, yeah.
We need to figure out exactly why waiting for the so-called perfect moment to get your finances together is actually a massive trap.
A huge trap. And by the end of this, we're going to walk through the exact step-by-step checklist you need to just start building wealth immediately.
Because the stakes here are incredibly high. Like I mentioned right at the top, we're not talking about missing out on like a few extra dollars of interest.
No, not at all. We are looking at a brutal mathematical cost for hesitation.
Right. Over 130 grand just for sitting on the sidelines. But before we break down that intimidating math, we really need to examine the psychological barrier.
The thing keeping people out of the game in the first place.
Exactly. There's this fascinating case study right at the beginning of the material about a woman named Adace.
Oh, yeah. This story is so relatable.
Yeah. It really is. She's 34 years old, highly capable, earning a really solid income. Yet she delayed investing for 3 whole years.
3 years of looking at her accounts every single January and just saying, let me just get a little more stable first.
Just waiting to feel, I don't know, emotionally and financially secure before she let her money grow.
And this highlights a core concept we really need to address immediately. Readiness is not a feeling. It is a decision.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the underlying argument here points to a childhood socialization gap.
Right, the way we're raised.
Yeah. Generally speaking, girls are raised to be prepared, to be polished, and to be absolutely perfect before they step forward to present their work.
While boys, on the other hand, are often socialized to just jump in, right? Just try things out and figure it out through trial and error.
And that socialization just follows us straight into adulthood.
It does. And when you combine that perfectionist conditioning with the world of personal finance, which society already frames as like super complicated and fraught with risk, you just end up with total paralysis.
It's a completely backwards approach to self-improvement. It's like someone refusing to go to the gym until they've already lost 10 pounds.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
You know, you go to the gym to lose the weight.
Yeah.
You invest to achieve financial stability. But I have to say, looking at this, it feels slightly counterintuitive.
How so?
Well, we are constantly told to do our research right before risking hard-earned money in the stock market. Shouldn't we be applauding people for taking courses, reading up, and really understanding the landscape before jumping in?
I mean, this raises an important question. It's a very fair point. But it's crucial to recognize when research morphs from a tool for preparation into a sophisticated delay tactic.
Right. The illusion of action.
Exactly. You save the bookmarks, you buy all the financial literacy books, you listen to the deep dives.
But you never actually open the brokerage account.
You never pull the trigger. And there is a profound irony in all of this. The data consistently shows that women actually outperform men as investors once they finally start.
Wait, really? They actually see better returns?
They do. Because of all that intense preparation, they do excellent research, they are more patient, and crucially, they panic sell much less frequently when the market takes a sudden dip.
Wow.
So the problem is absolutely not a lack of capability or intelligence. The problem is purely the entry point. The habit of over-preparing just continually pushes the start line further and further back.
So the very tendency to over-prepare makes them incredible investors, but it's also the exact psychological hurdle stopping them from becoming investors in the first place.
Exactly.
Okay, since we've established that this need for perfection delays the start line, we need to show exactly what that delay costs.
Let's get into the hard numbers here because they are wild. A woman who invests $200 a month starting at age 25.
Okay.
She will actually end up with significantly more wealth by age 55 than a woman who invests double that amount, $400 a month, starting at age 35.
Even though the second woman is putting in twice as much cash out of her own pocket.
Yes, exactly.
There's a very concrete example used in the source to illustrate this. Let's walk through the math as Tolu and Ngozi.
Right. Two hypothetical women with the same income, but radically different approaches.
So Tolu starts at age 27. She doesn't wait to become some Wall Street expert. She just invests a modest $150 a month into a simple index fund.
And assuming a historical average 8% annual return.
Right. By the time she reaches age 57, she has accumulated approximately $220,000.
Okay, 220,000, that's huge.
Now, Ngozi decides to wait until she feels entirely ready. She waits 10 years, starting at age 37.
Right, so she missed a whole decade.
Yeah. She invests the exact same amount, $150 a month, getting the exact same 8% return. But by age 57, Ngozi only has about $89,000.
Wow.
That is a gap of $131,000.
It's life-changing money. That's a house down payment or a business or just a secure independent retirement.
But let's look at the mechanics behind that. Because intuitively, that gap just doesn't seem like it should be that wide.
It really doesn't.
How does a 10-year delay result in losing out on more than 130 grand when her actual out-of-pocket contribution over those 10 years is only like $18,000 less?
Well, what's fascinating here is we have to understand the underlying mechanism of wealth creation, which is compound interest.
Right.
It is not linear. It is exponential. When Tolu invests her first $150, she earns a little bit of interest on it.
Okay.
But in year 2, she isn't just earning interest on her own cash contributions anymore. She is earning interest on her interest.
It creates a snowball effect.
Exactly. In the early years, that snowball is pretty small, which is why a lot of people get bored or discouraged and just stop.
Yeah, they don't see the big jumps right away.
Right. But if you let it roll down the hill for 2 or 3 decades, the snowball becomes massive. The interest completely outpaces the principal.
So by the time Tolu is in her 50s, the vast majority of her account balance isn't even money she put in.
No, it's the compounding growth. Ngozi missed the first 10 years of the snowball rolling. She can never catch up, even if she doubles her monthly contributions, because she simply doesn't have the runway left to let the math do its exponential work.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. The market, inflation, compound interest, they're entirely indifferent to our feelings.
Totally indifferent.
Time is just quietly stealing your wealth while you sit on the sidelines trying to get emotionally ready.
And if the math so clearly punishes waiting, we really have to ask why highly intelligent, capable people still hesitate.
Right.
We have to examine these logical-sounding excuses that are actually just fear wearing a mask.
The classic excuses like, I don't know enough yet, which just leads to consuming more information without acting.
Oh, the endless loop of research?
Yeah. Or, I'll wait until I have more money, which means you never start small, and that magical right amount somehow never arrives.
Never arrives. Or the fear of losing it to inflation. What if I lose it to inflation? When keeping it in a regular checking account practically guarantees that inflation will eat away its purchasing power.
Right. And then there's the outsourcing excuse. I'll just ask my partner, or my brother, or my uncle.
Right. Outsourcing financial decisions to men who might actually know far less than you think they do.
Giving your financial power away. It's like giving someone else the steering wheel to your car just because they confidently claim they know a shortcut, even if you know for a fact they don't have a map.
That is perfectly said. Just because someone sounds confident about a stock tip doesn't mean they actually know where they're going.
Exactly. But I want to pivot to another excuse that is heavily focused on here because it sounds incredibly responsible. The debt trap.
Yes. Waiting until your debt is fully paid off before you start investing is highlighted in the source as one of the most common and costly mistakes you can make.
Wait, that clashes directly with almost every traditional piece of financial advice out there.
I know, it really does.
We are conditioned by society to treat all debt as a 5-alarm fire. Being completely debt-free is usually held up as the holy grail, financial rule number 1, before you even think about putting a single dollar into the stock market.
It is a highly nuanced issue, and it really just comes down to the math of opportunity cost.
Okay, walk me through that.
Well, we have to look at the difference between the interest rate on your debt and the historical return rate of the market. Let's say you have low interest debt, like a student loan or a reasonable mortgage, sitting around 3 or 4%.
Okay.
The stock market historically returns an average of 7 to 10% annually,
So there is a spread there.
a significant spread. If you put every spare dollar you have toward paying off that 4% debt, and you wait 10 years to become quote-unquote debt-free before you start investing.
You permanently lost 10 years of capturing that larger 8% market return.
Exactly. You've missed out on a decade of the snowball rolling. The overarching principle is that for low-interest debt, you should often pay it off and invest simultaneously.
It's like bailing water out of a slightly leaky rowboat with all your energy, while completely ignoring the outboard motor sitting right behind you that could just drive you straight to the shore.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. You're working incredibly hard, but you're sacrificing your forward momentum. Letting low-interest debt act as a permanent pause button on your future robs you of your compounding years.
Wow.
Obviously, consulting a financial advisor for your specific balance is wise, especially regarding high-interest credit card debt. That's a different story.
Credit cards are a different beast.
Yeah. But the text summarizes the psychology of this entire section beautifully. It says, "You are not waiting because you are not ready. You are waiting because you are afraid. And fear is not a financial strategy."
Fear is not a financial strategy. That is powerful.
It really is.
So, having dismantled the excuses and the math, how do we redefine what ready actually looks like? Because for a lot of you listening, you probably know what an ETF or an S&P 500 index fund is.
Yeah, you aren't completely illiterate to the terminology.
Yeah, right. Yet you still freeze up.
Well, they freeze because the financial industry was built historically to sound opaque and exclusive.
It was a boys' club.
Exactly. The jargon creates this mirage of immense complexity that triggers that perfectionism we talked about earlier. It makes you feel like if you don't fully understand the geopolitical impacts on international treasury bills, you have no business opening a brokerage account.
But the truth is, you do not need a PhD in economics to participate.
Not at all.
There are some incredibly practical, geography-specific pro tips provided in the source for getting around this barrier. For instance, in the US or the UK, it suggests looking into tax-advantaged accounts like ISAs or Roth IRAs.
Or simply buying into a broad S&P 500 index fund through an established platform like Vanguard or Fidelity. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Right. And for those listening in Nigeria, the recommendations pivot to treasury bills, fixed deposits, or utilizing low-barrier entry apps like Cowrywise and PiggyVest.
Yeah, the actual vehicle you choose matters significantly less than the act of participating.
Which brings us to the new, pragmatic definition of ready. It is a simple, actionable, 4-point checklist. Number 1, have a small emergency fund.
Yeah, even just 1 or 2 months of living expenses provides a baseline of security.
Exactly. Number 2, understand just one investment vehicle at a basic level.
I love this one. You don't need to understand everything on the menu, just the one thing you are ordering. Understand how an index fund works and just start there.
Right. Number 3, commit a small monthly amount. It could be $20, $50, $100.
Whatever you can consistently automate without panic.
And number 4, the psychological linchpin. Accept that you will not know everything before starting.
Perfection is the enemy of progress.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Many of you might have grown up in households heavily burdened by a scarcity mindset.
Oh, for sure. Where money was secret or stressful.
Yeah, or framed as something only wealthy people understood. The message here is profoundly empowering. Your past relationship with money is just your starting point. It is not your destiny.
You get to be the first to change the generational story.
Exactly. You have the agency to be the first one in your family to change that narrative.
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, wealthy individuals didn't start with all the answers. They didn't possess some secret financial gene that guaranteed success.
Right. They just started imperfectly.
Yes. They captured the power of time, and they learned the nuances as they went along.
Which means we really need to talk about the action plan. Because analyzing this information without acting on it is just academic entertainment.
It's just a hobby at that point.
Exactly. If you listen to this deep dive, nod along, and then close your app without doing anything, nothing in your life changes. There are 4 immediate steps required to break the paralysis.
Step 1, do a readiness audit. Sit down with a piece of paper and write out every logical-sounding excuse you've told yourself about why you aren't ready to invest.
Get it out of your head.
Yeah. Then interrogate each one. Ask yourself, is this mathematically true, or is this just fear dressed up as logic?
I love that. Step 2. Name your number. Pick the absolute smallest amount you can invest monthly without derailing your life. Write it down.
Even if it's just the cost of one takeout dinner a month, just define the number.
Step 3. Open one account. Do not fall back into the research trap by spending 6 weeks comparing the user interfaces of 10 different brokerage apps.
Please don't do that. Pick a reputable one and just open the account today.
And step 4. Set a 90-day money date. Once a month, put it on your calendar to sit down and look at your numbers. And the ground rules are zero shame, zero drama.
You simply observe the data because you cannot fix what you refuse to face.
This brings us full circle back to Aday's, the woman from the case study at the beginning. After 3 years of delaying, she finally started.
She did, but she didn't wake up one morning magically feeling ready or perfectly educated. She started because a friend sat her down and called out her fear.
She opened an account that same evening. She transferred the equivalent of just one dinner out. And it wasn't some triumphant cinematic moment where angels saying,
A marching band.
Right. She just felt a shift. She felt the quiet power of finally taking the first step.
The ultimate takeaway for you today is that time is your greatest asset in wealth building. Starting imperfectly today will mathematically and psychologically beat waiting for the perfect tomorrow every single time.
Before we let you go, a quick tease for what is coming next time. We will be exploring the second chapter of this source material, titled Spending to Belong, Not to Build.
Oh, this one is so good.
We are going to look at the trap of lifestyle inflation. Why your income keeps going up, but your savings stay totally flat.
We'll be touching on the psychology behind buying designer bags on credit.
Yeah, and the massive financial cost of performing a life instead of actually building one.
It is a critical look at how our desire for social inclusion directly sabotages our financial independence.
But as we wrap up today's deep dive, we want to leave you with a final thought to mull over on your own.
Yeah, something to think about.
The material we covered today beautifully illustrates how time compounds your money. That math is undeniable. But think about the compounding effect of your identity.
Oh, I love this point.
Right. If taking action on just $20 a month shifts your self-image from someone who waits to someone who invests, how might that newfound confidence compound into other areas of your life?
Exactly.
If you internalize the identity of an investor today, how does that change the way you negotiate your salary or pitch a business idea over the next 10 years?
That shift in how you view yourself might end up paying dividends far greater than the interest on the money itself.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's deep dive. We hope you found that aha moment you were looking for. Until next time, take that first imperfect step.